Well, hello and welcome once again to A Goodman's Tale. I am Joshua Goodman. A Goodman's Tale is a place where we can get in, talk about the nitty, the gritty, life's ups and downs, our greatest challenges, and our epic failures. Today with us we have Rebecca House and young baby Emma. Hello. Hello. And special guest. And so, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so Rebecca has been here with us in the past, and I just wanted the opportunity. She's a working mom, has two jobs. A preemie that is almost 1 year old, and Bo, tell us the story of. A couple things I want to talk about today. The story of Emma, and the testimony that she is, and then also. Jump into the challenges of being, a mom working two jobs, having a baby that's less than 1 year old. So give us her story first.
So I was actually telling this story the other day at Macy's parent-teacher conference. We kind of got off track, started talking about babies and whatnot. The story of Emma is I've never had easy pregnancies.
Yeah.
I always have really difficult pregnancies. Pretty easy deliveries, but pregnancy is horrible. I suffer from hyperemesis, which is, for those that don't know, it's morning sickness times 10. Nothing alleviates it. You can't keep down water. You can't keep down crackers. Medicine might help for a bit, but if it kind of gets out of hand, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And I had my first bout of it with Macy, and because it was second pregnancy, but first that I was actually getting symptoms, I thought it was just regular morning sickness, and I let it get out of hand and got hospitalized with Macy on Christmas, passing out, all that good stuff. And I had... when I got pregnant with Wade, I kind of knew the signs. I knew my limits. So, the second I started feeling lightheaded, I was like, okay, and time to go to the hospital and get some fluids. Emma was just... she took me out. Yeah. I don't know what it was about her, but it was like I was pregnant with Macy all over again. Yeah. I don't know if it was because they're both girls or what was going on. But I had hyperemesis real bad, had to be put into the hospital bunches of times just because my fluid levels got so low, my potassium got so low, and I just didn't matter what kind of medication they put me on, the highest form of nausea medication, and it's still it would work for maybe a day, and then I don't know if my body got used to it or what, but I'd start throwing up again. Then about close to this time last year, started getting real sick again. We had our harvest night.
Well,
lovely.
Okay.
Had our harvest night, and ended up just almost passing out the day after. Maybe a couple days after that, I started bleeding, and I have O-negative blood, and
as do we all.
As do we all. Pretty much the whole family has O-negative blood, or just negative blood in general. And for those of you that don't know, when you are a pregnant woman and you have negative blood, you're a little bit more at risk for miscarriage, because light bleeding is kind of normal in pregnancy. However, if you have negative blood, and that blood mixes with your baby, and your baby does not have negative blood, your body will start to reject your baby and attack it like it's some sort of infection or virus. And so it's really it's difficult, if not impossible, to test your baby's blood before they're born. Yeah. So you have to go and get these shots called RhoGAM shots. And so when you have negative blood, you start bleeding at any point, you have to go get these things called RhoGAM shots, and it pretty much just tells your body to chill out. It's okay. Had to get it with all my babies. Yeah. You get it at, if you start bleeding at any point, you have to get it. You get it at 28 weeks, and then you get it after you have your baby, unless by that point they've tested the baby's blood and find out they're negative. So, with Macy and Wade and Emma, I didn't have to get it because Macy's negative, Wade's negative, so we were all good. But I started bleeding. And it was enough that it was like, oh, this is kind of scary. It wasn't like, oh, a little bit of spotting. Went into the hospital and would not stop bleeding. They put me on bed rest where I could go to the bathroom. Then they put me on complete bed rest. Like I was not allowed to move unless I was like shifting in bed. It was horrible. Stayed in for probably about 2 to 3 weeks. And my doctor was like, okay, so your bleeding has pretty much stopped. We're going to let you go home. But if you start bleeding at any point, any sort of amount, you're coming back in and you're staying in until your baby's born. Right. Keep in mind, this was in November, like end of November.
And when was Emma due?
Emma was due in February.
Wow,
the end of February.
4 months early.
Yeah. So if I had to stay in until she was born naturally, I would have been in the hospital for like 3-4 months.
Yeah.
I would have gone crazy. So, like a couple of days before she was born, stopped bleeding, doctor sent me home. I was able to spend one night at my parents' house, sleeping in a bed that wasn't a hospital bed, just able to relax, see my babies, because with COVID and everything, they weren't allowed to come visit. I wasn't allowed to see them. Like, I was able to FaceTime them. But
we couldn't even come up and see
them. Yeah, it was a month without my babies. Yeah, and at certain points, I was like because they switched me between postpartum and the labor and delivery. Mm-hmm. Labor and delivery, nobody but Daddy can come in. Yeah. And if he leaves the hospital, he was not allowed to come back until the next day. Like, even to the parking garage. They were like, no, if you leave this building, you can't come back until tomorrow. So a lot of the time it was just me and Justin. And then I'd get moved to postpartum and Mom would come and visit me, but anybody beneath 12 was not allowed to come in. So I wasn't able to see the babies. Finally got that day where they were like, okay, we're going to let you go home, but you start bleeding, you're coming back. Was able to spend one night in a bed that wasn't a hospital bed, just relax, see my babies. Next day, was sitting on the couch and watching a TV show with Dad, just chilling. Nobody let me get up. They were like, look, you can get up to go to the bathroom, that's it. Went to go to the bathroom, came and sat back down. Something felt funny. So I was like, oh no. Go up to the bathroom, sure enough, started bleeding again. And again, decently profusely. Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, a little bit. No. I was bleeding. Broke down in tears because I didn't want to go back to the hospital for 3-4 more months. I want to see my babies and I want to hang out with my family. I don't want to be stuck in there watching cable TV all day. So just broke down crying. Dad, my husband, came up because Justin kind of always leans to Dad whenever I was pregnant. He's like, I don't know what to do. This is first time with everything. This was definitely the first time with you because everything was new again. Mm-hmm. And Dad was like, look, it stinks, but you got to get back to the hospital. Yeah. So sure enough, went back and they were like, your record, like, weren't you just here a day ago? And I was like, yeah, funny thing. So got readmitted. And a couple days later, the bleeding still would not stop, was passing clots and everything. And then I started contracting. And no matter what they did, they put me on magnesium, which should have slowed everything down. Gave me, they tried everything to just get her to stay put. And finally they were like, look, you are bleeding too much. You're contracting. At the time we thought I had placenta previa. So it was like, if you go into normal labor, you're going to die. You and your baby are going to die. So, they put me in and had a C-section, and not even an hour later, Emma was rolled out next to me, and she was the tiniest little baby. Like, my hand was the size of her back. Yeah. And, like, people like to say that, they like to be like, oh, when you were little, you were this. No, she was, like, the size of my hand. Like, she was smaller than my forearm to my fingertips.
Stunning.
Her foot was smaller than my pink. Like, she was so tiny. Pound and, like, 2 ounces. Yeah. It's terrifying.
That was 1 pound, 2 ounces, guys.
1 pound, 2 ounces. She was like, because in the hospital they do everything by milligrams or whatever. She was like 770, 740. Yeah. Real tiny. She was immediately put in NICU. Like, we were able to see her for a second, and then they rushed her off to NICU to get her all hooked up to all her machines. And I didn't get to see her again until, like, late afternoon, evening of the next day, because I was still recovering from being sliced open and not being able to feel my legs, and got to see this tiny little itty bitty baby in her
a little peanut. I mean, literally looked
creepy
like
NICU coffin looking thing.
Yeah.
You were so tiny.
And now she is almost 1 year old.
Yep.
She'll be one.
Almost one in a month.
Yep.
Month and a couple of weeks.
And how long were you and Emma hospitalized? You were allowed out.
So I was allowed out. It was like the normal recovery time after giving birth, which was like not even a week. It's like 3 to 5 days, depending on how you do. And because I kind of bounced back rather quickly, even given, throwing up all over the place and whatnot.
Okay,
Come here, you. They were like, okay, you're good to go. Your levels are good. However, obviously, you cannot bring your baby home with you. And I don't know if, anybody else has experienced, well, obviously other people have, but anybody listening has ever experienced this. But leaving the hospital without your baby
is the hardest thing.
One of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Not even bringing in I was still super weak, super pale, lost a ton of weight. Driving away from there without her, I broke down into tears before I even got to the first light. And Justin's just like, I'm sorry. But it was horrible, because I'm like, I just went through this horrendous time. Super scary, thinking I was gonna die, letting my husband know, if it comes between me and the baby, you're choosing that baby. And like, no. Having these conversations with him, going through everything, it was like leaving there without my prize.
Fighting all of that.
And having to go home and be like, hey guys, it's just me.
And how long did they keep her?
They kept her almost until her original due date. So she was in there for about maybe a month and a half, because she was able to go home a little bit before her due date. I think it was like February 20th or something. She was able to come home super tiny
and finally able to meet us
and finally able to meet everybody, because so again, because of COVID, everything in the NICU was like, I mean, you're with the preemie babies, so they're even more susceptible to everything. So it was like, okay, you can only things changed a couple of times.
You talking?
Are you telling your story? You're like, let me tell you about the NICU. So for a time, it was like, okay, you can have up to like 4 people on the list. So we had mom and dad, just in case they wanted to come. I think we had either Bub or Tay. And then we had one more spot that we didn't fill with anybody, because I had reserved for Justin's mom, who was also in the hospital at this time, but I kept it reserved.
You gonna just tell your story?
Mom's talking too much. She was in the hospital, so I was like, look, if things change and she gets out, I want this spot for her. So I didn't put anybody in. I had plenty of people that I could have filled in, but I was like, no, this is for Justin's mom, just in case. And then things changed where COVID kind of took a spike, and so they were like, look, you can only have one other person, and that includes Daddy. So it was like only me and Justin were able to go and visit. Thankfully, before they put that into motion, Tay was able to come up and hold her and see her for the first time, so that was nice. But Tay was the only person who got to meet her in the hospital. Everybody else was like, no, you can't come in.
And I forgot about that, because the other, Justin's mom. It was a horrible time. Challenging. Holy cow. So while baby Emma was in the hospital growing, Justin's mom was admitted, and I think Emma was still in the hospital when she passed, wasn't she? So Emma was still in the hospital, and
she got to see pictures, and Justin broke the rules and did a video time while he was in the NICU with Emma, so that his mom could see her. But she passed. It was before Christmas, but not before Thanksgiving. It was after Thanksgiving. Well, obviously Emma wasn't born then, but she passed I want to say 2 weeks after Emma was born. I believe.
So just wow, what a challenging time. So baby's born. Preemie, you've gone through this whole year of raising a miracle baby, tell us a little bit about the challenges of having a preemie, working 2 jobs, because I feel like there's probably a lot of young ladies out there who, can relate to some of that story. So challenges, tell us about it.
So I had always heard that 3rd children change things a lot. And I was like, how much could a baby, 1 extra baby change things? Well, 1 extra baby does change things a lot.
Yeah.
Having a preemie extra baby changes things tremendously.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest girl of 6 kids. I am one of the oldest grandkids. All that good stuff. Like, I have had my fair share of experiences
of being
with
the older
babies.
child.
Yeah. I will stand with you. Okay? Will that make you happy? Experiences with children, seeing Mom go through pregnancy, Jen and Jess go through pregnancy, Nani going through pregnancy, everybody. None of them had preemie babies. Well, Zach was a little bit of a preemie baby, but it wasn't as intense as
NICU.
3 months early in the NICU for 2.5 months. So it was a whole new learning experience with Emma. Just how tiny she was, every doctor's visit. I don't know if it was because of this doctor or if this is just how everybody was, but when you go into the pediatrician office, up until pretty much they're like 2 years old, year and a half, they give you this little questionnaire about the milestones that they reach. And you'd think with preemies, they give the adjusted age ones. So like how old she really is developmentally.
Yeah.
No. They gave me the one, like, when I brought her in for her 3-month, they gave me a 3-month one. I'm like, no, she's not picking stuff up. No, she's not holding her head up.
She's not doing any of this.
She's technically only like a couple of weeks old developmentally. She's not doing any of this stuff. And it was pretty much up until recently that they were doing that. Yeah. And I'm like, my baby's not meeting these milestones. Yeah. Is she supposed to be?
Yeah.
Because again, this is my first preemie. No idea how to handle all that. So that was super fun. And it wasn't until she started physical therapy, which preemies have to do to make sure that they're developing right and then all that stuff, that they were like, look, here's a checklist of her adjusted age. If she's meeting these, she's good. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Finally,
she's meeting like 90% of these. Cool. We're on the right track now. Like, I'm not freaking out as much about, is this okay? Is she supposed to be doing this? Feeding her has been completely different. Because with Wade and Macy, it was like, okay, about 6 months-ish, I started weaning them back on breast milk or formula on their milk and started incorporating more of their
cereal
food.
And food.
With Emma, she's almost a year old, and I'm still like, okay, and we're going to try this food. And just now kind of incorporating baby food. Because she's just now gotten the motion of eating rather than spitting it out. I know. And then you put on top of that Justin, who for Macy and Wade, majority of them, not that they're grown up, but majority of their infant years, he worked jobs out of state. It wasn't even out of town. Like, he was away a lot of the time. And with Emma, we've gotten into this place where we've been married long enough, around each other long enough, had a couple of kids together, that we know now what we can handle and what we can't. We cannot handle him being out of state for long periods of time. The babies can't handle it. It was the exact reason I never married a military man, because I can't handle it. What? No. And so by the time Emma came along, it was like, okay, no, you cannot be out of state. We need you here. I need you here. It's better for our marriage. It's better for your relationship with the kids. And so Emma was actually the first baby that Justin was around a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
Like with Macy, she was born, and like the day I got out of the hospital, he had to leave and go to work, and he would be gone like all week, come home on weekends, stuff like that. Same thing with Wade. Like, even before I was out of the hospital, like the next day after Wade was born, Justin was back at work. And so it's like a learning curve for him as well, because he's like, wait, babies do this? This is normal? Just now getting the hang of like swaddling her and changing diapers and all that stuff. And it's new for him. And it's also difficult because he's forming this bond with Emma. He never got the chance to form with Macy and Wade.
Wow,
and it's like, okay, we got to make sure that we're balancing this out so that the kids don't think there's favoritism or anything. But I definitely think there's always going to be this stronger connection with him and Emma than the other two, because he just wasn't around. And so he never got that chance to form it. But it stinks that it took this long to like get into that groove of things, but it's good. It's good.
And you got Emma.
And we got Emma. And then
how do you juggle? How do you handle the I mean, again, a preemie baby, almost a year old, a husband, 2 kids, and 2 part-time jobs?
I don't know. Honestly, you want an honest answer? I don't know. There are days where it's difficult. I get home, and actually there are days because I work at the church, and then I work at the daycare, and actually on weekends I'm still working at Gohan's. I still work my Saturdays at Gohan's. And after work at the daycare, me and the kids will drive home, and I'm like, okay, this is mommy's quiet time. You guys aren't going to ask me questions. We're not going to talk on the drive home. I'm going to listen to a little bit of music. It's a 10-minute drive. You guys will be fine. And Macy's finally gotten the hang of it, where we were in the car last night, and I'm listening to music. And I'm not even realizing that I'm, like, zoning out and that I'm not listening to them until I hear Macy go, Wade, mommy said this is quiet time. And I was like... He was calling me and I didn't even realize. But that's my time to, okay, let me decompress before I get home. Because once I get home, it's, okay, I got to feed the kids, got to make sure Macy's homework's done, got to get Emma ready for bed, pack the lunches for tomorrow, make sure everything's good. I thankfully gotten into the swing of, okay, have everything ready the day before. Because in the morning... they're lucky we get to school on time.
And I think that's key. A key parenting thing is if you whatever you can prep the night before, prep the night before.
Do it. I have Emma's clothes set out, my clothes set out, kiddos' lunches are packed. But juggling it, I have no. Honestly, I don't know how I haven't lost my mind. There are a lot of times actually where I feel like I'm not doing enough, and this is something I'll probably need therapy for, but there will be times where I'm laying in bed having a minute while Emma's taking a nap before I have to go to work, and I just relax. I watch a movie or something, anything I have the time to do to just kind of feed into myself. I try not to do laundry. I try not to clean up anything, which is really difficult.
That's all. That's
just some me. And I feel guilty for it. I'm like, I need to be folding clothes. I need to be picking up the house.
Well, and I think that, so one of the things I didn't learn until I'm just now beginning to learn, having 6 kids, 3 grandkids, and me and mom both working full time, you sacrifice a lot in life, whether it's for the job, for the ministry, for the kids, for the grandkids. The struggle is real and the sacrifice is enormous. And, you know, if I could just talk to you guys and say, do the best that you can to create a little bit. I'm not saying that you spend all day watching cartoons or whatever. What I'm saying is every day, carve out, and you'll have to carve it out, out some me time. Again, whether it's sitting on the back porch having a glass of iced tea, talking with your spouse, or it's watching a movie. But carve out, in our Western American lifestyle, we get so busy. Life is so hectic. And it's rare that we just carve out that time for yourself, because it's something that is absolutely necessary, you know. And again, we give and we give and we give, and we go and we go and we go. And sometimes it's just such a good idea to stop and just breathe. And so I think that's probably the moral of this story is you live a very busy life. You've got 3 kids, 3 jobs, husband. And I think that it's if you don't carve out that time, you'll a couple of things. Have a stinking anxiety attack.
Some part of your life is going to suffer, whether it be your kids, your spouse, something is going to take the toll of you not taking a moment to... There's so many things that come with not doing. If you don't do that, again, it contributes to anxiety, to depression, absolutely to burnout, to fatigue, sickness. Yeah. It's there's so many things. We were talking about that the other week. that go hand in hand with it, and so no matter how busy you are, how much you sacrifice, make sure you're taking time for yourself, spending time in your word, in worship, spending time in prayer. Those things are just, especially with your busy lifestyle, right? Those things are absolutely invaluable. Anyway, guys, that's about all the time we have today. Thanks, Bill, for hanging out, and little baby Emma for being with us, you little miracle baby. Hope you've enjoyed the story, or the podcast today. And until next time, go out and live life with all you've got.